Hi, Wolf Tracks. Good to see you. Totally understand that you gotta lurk, but I appreciate you being here. We are gonna get started shortly. I'm just getting organized. I don't know what this music is, but I hate it. On. Hi, Leaf. Little Tracks, Leaf. I hope you're both doing all right today. Um, I'm a little bit of a mess. I was very organized and I had grand plans this morning. And none of that is what's happening right now. Which is fine. Totally fine. Susie, I got nothing for you, dog. I planned badly, and I was basically eating just before this. I think of Tripping Crutch was streaming Thirsty Suitors earlier today, which I'm super stoked. I need to play it. I've heard great things. First off, the music is great, but there's a character just like talking, making quips in the background, and they're like, what was it? Hold on. I wrote it down because it was so funny and so applicable. And it is your plan can't go wrong if you didn't make one in the first place. Which is too real. But hi, welcome in, Coldrake. I hope you're doing well. What was for dinner? I had rice and I splurged and bought one of the like chickens that they put. It's like a Parmesan panko. So stuff on the outside, and then it's like asparagus, cheese, and something on the inside, and I can get one for like not terribly expensive. But it was a splurge. So anyways, hello, welcome in. Ah, Dre, I was just talking about that you were playing Thirsty Suitors earlier today. I was lurking the whole time because of work. And I think at one point you were like, I know I haven't done anything, but the music on like the loading screen or at the start or something is good. And I was like, yes, it is. So anyways, hold on. We are going to get started in just a second. I'm mostly tripping over my dog and her toys right now. Susie's just being in the way. Okay, so, dun, 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 dun. I did not move my chair, so hold on a second. I was like, I can sit down in front of the camera and we'll get started. My chair is not in front of the camera. Susie, you're in the way. Also, take your bones someplace else, please. Susie is not helping tonight. Susie is being excessively in the way tonight. Alright. Haha. Okay. It's fine, we got this. I totally got this. Everything is definitely fine. She says to herself. Let's switch scenes so y'all can actually see what I'm talking about. Hello. Y'all are just getting like a very comedic, yes, hello. Hold on a second, I'll shift the camera down and y'all can see a Susie. So here's Susie demanding attention. I have no food for you. Actually, that's not true. I do actually have treats right here. Yeah, I really want to play Thirsty Suitors, so I'm sorry y'all are getting awkward camera angle, but dog. So yes, you saw an award-winning. I've seen some people do some really cool things with quilts like that. I say see people, I mean like I've looked it up when I was browsing quilt designs, and I'm like, this is real cool. I could never. She's just, all right, go on. We're actually, I'm gonna talk to Amy. No, I don't. Chewing on me isn't gonna change anything. She thinks it is, but it's not. Yes, hi. I'll keep petting you while we're sitting here. You'll stream it tomorrow? Okay, awesome. I have an appointment in the morning, but I think I'm outside of checking in on work to get a couple things done. I'm probably just gonna like take it as a day. Susie is great. Keep trying. If she hangs out long enough. No, see, for her to get the treat, I'm going to throw it on her bed so she'll leave me alone, which is like 5 feet that way. But hi, welcome in, everyone. Let me know if the sound balance is okay. Music's a little loud in my ears. She's going to knock over a camera because she's bumping into the table now. But hi, welcome in. As you can see, I'm a human disaster today, probably as I always am. Here we go. Just for you. Oh, no, I wasn't summoning you. I'm going to send you back to your bed. Hold on. It was a summoning, but it was badly done. There you go. Go over there. So yes, I am a human disaster, but we are very excited tonight. So we finished sewing the top of the quilt, so the stitching, which I have, it's kind of folded up right now, but y'all have seen it. So all of the stitching across the top is done, which is a little hard to see here. So sorry, we'll flip it over so you can see the back. Much easier to see on the back. Little continuous lines rather than little dashes. Yeah, that's my special skill for tonight is I'm summoning people. People includes my dog. Here, come here. Okay, well, I was gonna go move her bed closer and she could lay on it, and then she jumped on her bed, so. Ooh! Susie just got the camera, it's fine. We're doing great, y'all. It's Thursday. We've made it to the beginning of November. Everything is fine. All right, off you go. Go cause trouble over there. I don't want you right now. Susie. She has now decided that she wants to play. Here, take your bone. Take this. Go there. No. We're away. Don't bite me. Go. Stop hitting the camera. She's like knocking it over. This is a Monday stream on a Thursday. A 6 foot by 6 foot. Okay, I'm catching up on chat. 6 foot by 6 foot quilts with half-inch. Oh yeah, no, I could not. Yeah, this is an exciting start. Susie has decided she is very excited. If I move your bed closer and I give you a treat, will you stay over there? It's the downside of all of this. But yes, so we finished stitching the top. So actually we're going to have a little bit of a comedy of me trying to adjust the cameras to give you all a decent angle while I am cutting, because cutting is going to be an adventure, and I'm warning you now. I say warning in that I'll probably knock over some cameras and some other stuff. I did clean up in advance of this, so it'll be fine. But yeah. So as you know, we're fundraising for Stack Up. We're going to wrap up this campaign next week. I'll probably leave the Stack Up link and everything live through Saturday. If there are enough people to raffle pool. For the record, so far only one person has entered the raffle for the clipping a stream or a VOD. Heard it's Thursday and then brain kind of shut down at the beginning of November. Like, beginning of November, it was just August, right? I have no concept of, like, I've had to start doing the rounds of, like, either messaging, emailing, or bringing it up on calls to all of the partners that I work with to be like, hey, y'all, I'm giving you all the list of all the dates the offices are closed right now. Holidays are a thing. I'm going to be taking time off in addition to that. So, like, plan appropriately. Yes, we are going to be, we finished the stitching, so we will be, it's hard to see because my lighting here is terrible, I'm sorry. Actually, hold on. Not that one. Can I make lighting better? That's bright. Just randomly turn on the light. Not particularly well, but so Edge of Quilts is here. I gave this a little bit more space on the edges, so we'll be truing up the sides and then getting started on our binding, which is this. Very excited. Oh god, if I ever blow a circuit here, it's gonna be terrible because I'm like, what, at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 lights. Luckily 2 of them are plugged into the computer technically. 3 cameras, the computer, the sewing machine, the extra light on the sewing machine. It'll be fine. But yes, so tonight we'll definitely get through the cutting, we'll get through the starting of the binding. We will have a moment in the middle there. I pulled out some of the leftover fabric that was used on this to make the tag I'm going to put on it. I'm not 100% sure where I'm going to place it yet, or what exactly I'm going to write on that, so we'll have to figure that out, but we'll do the cutting first. But yeah, so I'm like trying to think of like, what's going on? What has happened? So it's very possible that we will actually complete the quilt on stream Monday. I found that binding takes longer than I think it does. I'm usually like, oh, it's not going to take that long. Hours later. And also this is the larger quilt that I'll be binding. So probably complete it Monday stream. And then I don't know. I guess maybe Thursday we'll do more Resident Evil 4, continue on the misadventures of Leon and what was the president's daughter's name? Ashley? So yeah. So all that said, it's Thursday, but and then real quick because I will forget otherwise. So Stack Up continues. We'll wrap it up next week. Again, reminder: there's fun little incentives, things like a couple bucks will send you a postcard. If you want to enter for the raffle is to book me to clip a stream or a VOD. There's only one person who's entered so far, so they might just win it themselves. And then as we're wrapping up this fundraising, next weekend, Saturday, November 11th, I will be taking part in a charity one-shot, the first of several that will run on Praxagoria Thesmophoria's channel, benefiting Fisher House. So I'll be in the game at 10 a.m. Eastern, so we have the first game of the day, which means we get to kick off the nonsense. I'm very excited about that. Cypher of Tears is going to be running the one shot, and the only person I remember for sure, this is really bad. I'm like, I should go recheck who's supposed to be in this game with me, but the one I know for sure is Pirate. So Chaos Twins Unite, nonsense will continue. Oh no, I'm not using, I cheat, or I make my life harder for me. I'm not sure which. And I actually lay out and use my cutting board with the rotary cutter. I'm like, motion. Almost had, I had to think about where I was like, what's the name? I feel really bad that I'm like, the president's daughter's name. Like, she's useless. President Weevil Cottonball. I mean, also that. Had a blast causing nonsense at work on Tuesday in Team Rocket cosplay. Yeah, I wish I had lasers, right? That would be so nice. Also, this quilt is too big for the table, so we're going to have a whole adventure, and it's not a cutting table. It is a table that I have placed my like 18 by 24 self-healing cutting mat on. So that's a whole comedy of moving fabric and things. So that's why I say we're gonna have an interesting time. I hopefully remembered to have my cameras all set up. So yes, so all the things. So I'm gonna swap us over to this, and then I'm gonna check. All right, so I've made a mistake, y'all. But it's fine. I can solve for this. Susie's staring at me very hard. And what I'm going to solve for it is by moving this camera. Actually. Oh no! The cable isn't quite long enough. This is one of the cable extenders I need to get. I'm sorry in advance, y'all. Just making your lives more complicated. Okay. I mean, at least I didn't knock it over like we tried to do with the other camera. Nope, this is gonna be in the way. Can I bring it closer? It's still in the way. I'm very bad at this, y'all. This is the one downside of having a kind of modular setup where I'm constantly moving and doing different things, is that I'm not really equipped for some of the things I choose to do. But it'll be fine. So first things first, I should have moved. We will need the iron later, but not right now. So let's go put it someplace where it's not gonna cause me any trouble. Dun, dun, dun. All right. Sorry about that. Don't mean to cough at you all. I unfortunately have the it got cold and therefore everything got more difficult. Like the temperature change always gets me. All right. This is either gonna go great or terrible, y'all. So I'm just going to apologize in advance. The wire is not long enough for that. I was like, I'll move it someplace else. Wire is not long enough. Can't win. But I hope you all are doing all right and your week is going okay. Glad you're back home. Cypher? Susie was a warm-up act before the... Susie was here to make things interesting for y'all. I'm not sure which camera I have on. We'll leave it at that one. Actually, this is just welcome to the comedy. I'm sorry. You just have my body moving in front of the different cameras. Bum, ba-dum, ba-dum. Oh no! Not what I meant to do, sorry. Live on stream! Haha. There we go. Okay. Now we got it. Now we got it. So this one, great. Great, great, great. Live on stream, trying to figure out how all my cameras work and the stuff I didn't get set up. I was all like, I did all the things. No, I didn't. I lied to y'all. Okay. So the other thing we're gonna do is we will actually move this one a little further over, so you're getting a few different, actual slightly different camera angles. Hopefully Susie will not knock it over this time. Then we'll slide the table. Yeah, in the future. There's, actually, Cypher has one of them. There is a wireless camera, that I forget if it was meant for, like, arts and crafts stuff or what. Who did it? Is it Mevo? So as you can see, the quilt does not fit on the table. I'll have to figure out all the things that I've broken messing with my cameras, but it'll be fine. So what I'm going to attempt to do... Okay, you know what? Not this one either, Pretzel. What? I could take scissors to it, but I just find it a little bit easier to use my rotary cutter and straight, sturdier, thicker ruler. So I'm going to do the short ends first because those will theoretically be easier. And I don't need it to be precise per se. I usually trim first and then I will cut to size. Like I'll trim, I will attempt to measure. It'll be harder because as you can see, I don't have a table large enough for the whole quilt. But the intent is to trim off the excess and then I will attempt to trim to more precise. Now it's fine if the edges aren't perfect because most of that'll get covered by the binding, but you want it to be like, none of my quilts are precisely like perfectly sized. So if I say it's going to be 45 by 68, I really mean that it's going to be like 45 by 68-ish. Emphasis on ish. Yeah. I have the benefit that I do have hardwood floors, but they're uneven. This is an old copper wire mill. that, so we cut off a strip, and it won't be, let's see if I can actually show it where y'all can see it. It won't be perfect, but basically I'm cutting relatively close to the edge of the stitching. There's some areas which will be hard for y'all to tell where it's not perfectly there, but we'll clean that up later. So the apartment I'm in, these are loft apartments, and it's an old copper wire mill that has been converted to apartments. It's part of why we have so much trouble on stream with lighting. With lighting and sound when I'm not wearing the headset, and that's because there's high ceilings. So while this room by itself is not particularly large in terms of square footage, the ceiling is very high, and that makes things more difficult. Yeah, I will say for this one, if it's a stitching style I haven't done before, I have a tendency to give myself more on the edge because I'm not particularly practiced. So when I was binding all of this, I wasn't sure how I was gonna kind of baste the top of the quilt together, and as a result, I gave myself more space than not. So for like when I did the second baby quilt, I gave myself like an inch and a half because I was confident by that stage in what I was going to be stitching on top and that it wouldn't shift far enough to be problematic. But with this one I didn't. And the other one that I'll do the free motion quilting on is similar. In that I gave myself a little bit more space because I wasn't sure. And honestly, the good part with all of this is that these then will I'll throw scrap fabric on top and they'll become practice strips for, well, actually, I'll probably trim them. And if I think there's something recoverable there for use in like quilt as you go and scraps, then I will. And otherwise, I'll turn these into test pieces for things like free motion quilting, what have you. An example would be this is leftover from one of the earlier quilts. So this is the back and has the associated batting, and then I put another strip from a previous quilt on top and did, lighting sucks, hold on, turn the light this way, there we go. And you can see that I was practicing free motion quilting on it. So I'm trying to, rather than just trashing it, I'm trying to like reuse the bits that I have. Or reuse as much as I can, I should say. I think I know what motif I'm going to attempt on Pirate's quilt, and I just need to do some practice. So yeah, in this case, and with the quilt that I'm doing for Pirate, I will have what seems like kind of excessive scrap, but I'll repurpose as much as I possibly can of it, or use it for testing, for test sews, so that I'm hopefully wasting as little fabric as possible is kind of the end goal there. So this is one of the long ends. So this quilt is supposed to, when it's done, be about 45 by 68. My self-healing mat is 24 by 18, so I'm using the long side of 24. And basically, as you can see, going little by little. The good part is, because this is the edge, this is just the first cut so that I can get rid of some of the excess material, and then when I come through to start clean up the edges, again, it doesn't have to be perfect because all of these edges are going to get hidden in the binding. Um, yeah, I'm sorry, I've just looked back up. I caught the, make it on the living room floor, but I missed the comment after that. This whole project has been, let's make something that's too large for everything. I mean, basically anything except for a baby quilt in the space that I have is going to be too large for everything. For my table, for my cutting table, for my sewing table, for the machine, everything's gonna be too large. Dun, dun, dun. I mean, I could make fabric paper. I think the thing with it is I'm really intrigued by the idea of doing a quilt as you go project at some point with all of the like cotton scraps that I have. So I'm kind of saving to be like, could I make something small? Who knows? Find a use for all those scraps. And then specifically as it relates to trying out new techniques rather than buying fabric and starting from scratch, using scrap fabric just makes me feel like I'm being less wasteful. Alright, this is gonna be cutting it kind of close. Oh. My edges for this are all wacky because of how I was. Alright, so here's our pile of the 4 edges. Like I said, it seems like a lot. Truthfully, most of this isn't fully either base or what have you together, so a lot of this will be reusable for something. Yeah, so with a quilt as you go, you do. But the video I was watching of somebody explaining it, they were basically just doing strip, like they had pre-established the size of the blocks they were going to do for each piece. And it was like, oh, have a like 10 by 5 or I don't know, 9 by 5 or something like that. So they basically picked a size that was matched one of their rulers. And then it was, they did it as strips. And so you are correct. But as long as I kind of block the sizes correctly, I would have a pretty flexible amount of options. The idea was that like it was only if you got under a specific size, like if your fabric was less than say 2 inches wide, that they'd be like, okay, maybe you want to save this for something else. But honestly, the example they did in that was they were using some pretty small strips. So like, and they gave examples of how you could combine 2 smaller pieces of, wow, words are hard, batting. And basically they would do what I did here on this flannel fabric that I got because it was on sale for like $2 a yard. Which is that I basically lined the 2 edges up together and then I just did a zigzag stitch to pull them together to make it all one piece. And that's essentially kind of what you do with the... I'm happy to find and send you the link if you are interested, Drake. Alright, so... Now, I haven't perfectly trimmed the edges for all the excess. I've just kind of sort of trimmed it down. So it's a little more manageable. And now I'm actually going to measure and say like, okay, well, how far wide? Okay. So this is currently from fabric, the 2 ends of the fabric, the way I've cut it, about 45.5 inches. So I have some leeway if I want to trim it. Um, here in the middle, it's basically perfectly 45, middle-ish. $45.25 here. And at the very top, from edge to edge, 45.5. If I had a better set up space where I could lay the whole thing out and on like a table. I saw somebody who showed that they actually laid theirs out on like their kitchen island because it was one of like the really large ones, so it could fit a quilt. And I was like, that's the dream, or that would be a dream, but not something. And then this is going to be a little bit more difficult to do because my tape measure is actually not long enough. All right. About an idea of so it's actually like 67.5 or so on that end. This is way easier with a baby quilt because a baby quilt basically fits perfectly onto this table. So I can lay it out and measure the sides and cut without too much struggle. Not the case here. All right. And then on this side, it's about 68.5 inches. So I'm not going to cut it to try and have like a perfect, perfectly sized. I mostly am just going to trim where I have clear excess batting showing up so that it doesn't accidentally get caught in the, I don't even know how I managed this one. Doesn't get caught in the this is probably how I doesn't show when I do the binding. That's what I'm trying to say. And it won't be perfect, but the goal here is just that it's good enough. This is actually probably where the bulk of that extra inch came from. Is that section. Very uneven from one side to the other. Now, one of the things you might notice is a little bit like bubbling, I guess, of material here, and that's just the unfortunate reality that while I stitch it as best I can, doesn't mean that you don't end up with it. I won't necessarily have everything perfectly flat. Most of the time it won't be too noticeable unless you're looking for it, and again, we'll iron everything down. Nah, I do where you stitch to the raw edge, fold it over, and then you stitch again on the top, but it's in the ditch, so, or as close to it as I can get. It's like the simplest, least complicated binding I can do. Alright, actually, let's do both short sides. Good one is this one's not actually too bad, just is I gave myself a little more clearance than we needed when I cut it first. Um, Also, any fancy stitching just sounds complicated and like I can mess it up real easy. I want the people I'm sending to like what I give them. Oh, Leaf, are you still here? I don't know if you're working right now. That should be good enough. There's a couple spots where it might be a little... Come on. So anyways, this is the comedy. I could theoretically do this lengthwise and be able to go further, but because I don't have a big enough self-healing mat, it's more annoying to move the mat than it is to move the quilts. I forgot to tell you, Leaf, but the quilt is machine washable. Ugh. I hate what did I do here? I just ended up with this like wildly... There's like just a section here that I managed to like unevenly cut this whole thing. It'll be slightly lopsided, but it'll be mostly the crack size, so I think we should be fine. Actually, it just seems like a couple spots that ended up like the quilting ended up too... Because now that I think about it, once we get past these like single pieces that I just apparently attached badly. But yeah, quilt is machine washable. I used all machine washable materials. There might be a little bit of shrinkage the first time it gets washed, but that's kind of within expectations for the material. I'll have to double check, but I think kind of the standard is usually like machine wash, you know, cold water, gentle cycle. For just based on the fabrics, but I'll double check and let you know. I think that should be close enough. That should be fine. There's like one section here. Let's take a look. It's less than a 1/4 inch, so it should be fine when I stitch. Nothing should pop out there. I'm mostly concerned that I don't want any of the batting to show when I'm doing the binding on. If it was the 60s, Airjon, I'm like, yeah. I mean, it sometimes depends on the material. Like, even if it doesn't say line dry for some stuff, I'm like, ooh, I'm gonna line dry you anyways. And I'm just blanking right now specifically what, go. So I'll measure the end just to have an idea of like how much I had to trim off to make this work. So it's not going to be a perfectly 45 by 68 quilt. But it should be good enough, and the edges, like, because of how I'm trimming it, should not be entirely noticeable unless you're like laying it out flat and looking for it. That it's not particularly even. Theoretically, there are some people do using like different bias tape instead of fabric. I actually did that on the very first quilt that I sewed earlier this year. And that's doable. I just found after like doing a little more research so I could be a little more informed before I tried to make this quilt, I found when I was looking up and people were doing the versions, was that it was just, you could get more interesting binding, because for the most part, for the bulk of quilts I've now done, I've picked fabric for the binding with like not plain solid color material colors. Like I'm picking patterns and stuff that add some character to the quilt's edges just as much as the body of the quilt. So, I will be machine binding this. I don't have the patience for hand binding, transparently. Like, I complain when I have to hand stitch something for one of my like clothing or accessory projects. It's actually a bit of a comedy. My friend teaches classes at the sewing studio I take classes at, and I've had her for 2, and she'll always find sneaky ways to be like, oh, there's just a little bit of hand stitching, and then over the course of a class she'll be like, so there's like some hand stitching, and they're like, well, you know, you might have to hand stitch like an entire collar. It's actually really funny because there were 2 of us in one of the classes who both didn't like to hand stitch, and each time she would say you might have to hand stitch, she would, again, it would be like a little bit more till finally we were like, hold on, the amount goes up every time that you say we're gonna be hand stitching. And so it was very entertaining, because she's like, no, it's fine, and she's like, actually, I was getting you all used to the ideas, but like I have a blazer I made earlier this year that I still haven't finished because I have to hand stitch the hem on the sleeves. And so I'm just like, nah, I don't want to do that. Eventually I will, also because that one I need to actually, the material is a satin, and it doesn't take like ironing quite as, well as I would like, so it's going to be a little bit of a challenge. I shouldn't say challenge, but a little more difficult to get the wrist hem in than I probably will like. Yeah, and I respect it. I just don't have the patience for it. And because I do so much of... Okay, so top is a little more than 45. About 45, or that's bottom, sorry, 45 1/4. Middle is about 45. About 45. And then 45 1/4. Okay, so even the bit of trimming we did on the sides, we have a pretty consistent between 45 and 45 1/4 for the width. The real question is going to be the length. So I don't have much patience for hand stitching, and then my other challenge is, as you all know, because I was like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I have 5 lights on in here right now. Outside of getting one of the little like headbands with the light on it that I can have staring at it, like I just don't. Most of my sewing and stuff is in the evening, so lighting is one of the challenges. Alright. Okay, go all the way up-ish. Going to hand stitch that shirt. Parts of it will get hand stitched. So what I found with jackets is that it tends to be like the facing of the collar that you're stitching down. Alright. I think this is the side that was longer, so it's about 67 and a half, 67 and 3/4. So yeah, like it tends to be with jackets that in other bits with like material collars and stuff that there's just specific parts of it that need hand stitching. And so the bulk of it will be machine stitched, and then it's just some of the finishing touches. And you could machine stitch it with those, but in terms of like how visible and just how clean it kind of looks, usually hand stitching gives it a more finished look. Actually, it's about 67 and 3/4, y'all. I might have accidentally cut them to be, well, to be the similar length on both sides. Or, I mean, regardless of which side. Well, that's nice. Look at that. I did a good job, y'all. Well done, us. I appreciate you, lurkers. Also, I read that Sewing in the Dark is Promises in the Dark by Pat Benatar, which is not the theme of the music we're getting. Now, real quick, I'm going to iron it. So we now have our, I'm like, which camera will show it better? We have our nice clean edges. No limited extra material. Prax, welcome in. I hope you're doing well this evening. I hope everyone's doing well. Also, hi. I'm sorry, Pim, that you asked and I answered you and then I didn't say hello. So, welcome in. Maybe one day I'll find more joy out of hand stitching, but for now I don't have the patience for it. I just find it frustrating. Like if I machine stitch this, then, or if I, machine bind this, then I'll be done in a fraction of the time. Alright, so now I'm gonna bust out. So, next step is we are going to iron. We're gonna iron the quilt, mostly just to smooth it out and everything, and because I forgot to do it off stream, like I said I was going to get rid of some of the markings on it. And then I'm also just gonna go ahead and iron the extra fabric for our tag. And I've had our binding fabric, here we can tilt this up a little bit, so I'm like not half cut off. We've had this folded over while we've been having it sitting to the side, so I'm just gonna, it's just the one fold, we'll pull it out and iron it so it's a little, what was I, oh, I was like, why is it set to 3? I've only been working on a quilt. And then I remembered that I sewed that top with a knit polyester last week for Halloween, and as a result I set it to a lower setting for the polyester. Tonight we are drinking another ginger beer. This one is flavored with half and half, so half lemonade, half tea. It's not as good as the spiced apple ginger beer, but it's not bad. I don't know if this is actually a saxophone, but that's what it sounds like to me. And this is just grooving. So we'll do the binding first. It doesn't have to be perfect because all of this is getting sewn down, but I usually try to avoid having like super obvious, terrible folds in my fabric if I can help it. Pretzel really giving us an eclectic mix of songs tonight. I feel like Pretzel does this every night, but then I'm surprised every night. Like every stream, this is an interesting mix of songs. This is also cotton. So everything I picked up is various quilters cottons. besides the batting. So this one I think was on sale. Oh, working on stuff for next Saturday. I'm very excited. I want you to know. So Prax is hosting on their channel a, what is it, 14 hours of tabletop RPG one-shots on multiple systems. So it's not just D&D. Fundraising for Fisher House. And this is only the second time ever that I'm going to play a bard. I've only played once before, also in a charity one-shot on Prax's channel. And I have never played a high-level anything, much less a bard. So, and this is a, like, I think Cypher told us we could have anywhere from level 16 to a level 20. I need to confirm that. So one, I've never played a high level anything. And then two, I'm not particularly familiar with bards to begin with, which is going to make it even more comedic for me. Because it's like, not only am I now playing a high level character, but I'm playing a high level character of a class that I'm not familiar with. Alright. So this doesn't have to be perfect. I'm just going to give like just a quick little courtesy iron to my quilt. Primarily to kind of even out the edges, make it all. Now again, I am certainly not an expert in any shape or fashion. So you can definitely see areas for like my little stretching, tautness, or kind of bubbling of the fabric wasn't laying flat when I stitched it, which, you know, listen, these things happen. It's still gonna look good. It's still gonna be a great quilt. It's just gonna have some imperfections, and that will give it character. Pretzel's just trying to expand our music selections. 14 hours, 16 players, 4 GMs, all the shenanigans. I'm very excited. I would like to once again give my campaign speech to anyone, but primarily Leaf, who I know is like, I need to donate in advance, that you should absolutely be donating to assist me with nonsense, and not Cypher, and not Pirate. Like, just pick me. Choose me. Choose me. I feel like this is a weird mix of like the kid at the playground being like, yes, pick me for your team, and also like being like, notice me, senpai, please. Oh, Susie, you get hair on everything. I will take multiple rows of lint rollers to this quilt before. Why? It's just so, even once you trim it, it's like, it's still large, it's still unwieldy. My bard, the other thing that's really funny, so the backstory of this bard, without going into excessive detail, but which I blame Prax for, was that she failed out of the College of Glamour, because rather than studying and getting bitter at being a bard, she kept going out into the woods and trying to charm animals with her truly terrible instrument playing skills. Because in all the stories and all the epics, and I'm, you know, using some creative license here, that she had read, I'm thinking like, you know, the equivalent of all the Greeks and Shakespeare and stuff and what have you, was that, you know, to be a princess you had to be able to charm animals. That's how you found a prince. It's one of the key skills of being a princess. Think like Disney, essentially. And so she was trying to. So the entire like basis of what she's doing and how she's adventuring is that she's trying to find the one. So if you see the one shot from Prax's Charity Vania, which was a kind of modified Metroid-like series of one shots of our characters trying to make it through Dracula's castle, that was run on New Year's Day this year, my character ended up there because it's a castle, and she assumed that a castle would have a prince, and since she wants to be a princess, she needs to find a prince. She's not that good of a bard. One of my all-time favorite characters was, who else had the most epic moment in D&D and all time, was the level 18 lore bard. Ooh, I don't even know much about the like additional like subclasses for bards. This is a bard who managed to counterspell Lord Sauce level 9 disintegrate, and save the knight so they could kill. Yeah, see? The knight had to save the knight, just had to make sure that Sauce didn't cheat. Listen, take it, take it. Take your wins. But yes, so like this character's entire basis for adventuring is very ridiculous, and I just thought it was funny because it's a lot of ways in which I typically would not play a character, but since I was playing for the first time ever a bard, I figured, I was like, well, I might as well do something, play a character personality that I've never done before either. And I think it's fun to play, to get to play characters kind of outside of your like regular wheelhouse in general, but also like expand your repertoire. Listen, I tried to play recorder real, like live on stream. Oh, hi, welcome in. I'm sorry, I'm like, the screen's over here and everything's tiny, so I'm like, what's your name? Lord Zath, welcome in. Yes, yes, yes. No, absolutely fun. So Stack Up is great. So we've been distracted talking about one-shots and charity games right now, but relevant for charity. But Stack Up, this is the first time that I've fundraised for Stack Up, but I do find Stack Up's mission to resonate really well with me because, one, I am the only civilian of my family. I'm a military brat. Both my parents are retired Air Force. My brother spent 10 years in the Marines. That is my most immediate family. As you can imagine, we had a lot of family and friends who were also military. So one, that will always resonate with me. And then two, I also feel very strongly about positive and mental and emotional health. I talk about it very often on this stream, that I see a therapist, that I do take a lot of, do a lot of things with the intent to keep my mental and emotional landscape healthy. And I think one of the reasons why it's important to me to speak about it is because it is something that people aren't necessarily comfortable speaking about. Either, fear of how people take it, because it, necessitates, it's Thursday, I'm struggling, necessitates a degree of vulnerability to be open with people about that. And like, listen, I freaking walked around PAX East with a plushie almost every day. I have no problem being vulnerable in public. So I have a lot of feelings about it, is what I'm saying. Part of the team, yes, yes, yes. Yeah, everybody here has been fantastically supportive, and I believe we're at $1,121. Yeah. Super exciting. So we've been sewing a quilt this whole time, and you're kind of slowly getting it, so I'll pull it. This is the quilt. It's upside down. They're supposed to be hearts, so you're seeing it from the wrong direction. That we've been sewing over the past month and a half. Actually, it's almost 2 months now. I think we started the second week of September. So here, we'll turn it so you can actually see the hearts. So y'all can see our lovely, lovely quilt. We'll be doing our binding. We'll be doing our tag and then our binding. We've ironed. I think we're good. So let's unplug this so we won't hurt ourselves with a hot iron. But yeah, super stoked. I've also, really, what is that, right? We started, I believe, the second week of September. I was cutting the fabric for this on stream. So now we're like 95% of the way done. So our stitching has been done. We've just ironed. We trimmed our sides. So I'm going to, we're gonna have to move some things around, clean some stuff up, and then I'm gonna have to adjust the cameras again, y'all. We did. We had very few. Actually, the injuries I did were off stream where you all couldn't see it. So when I was laying out and quilting, making the quilt sandwiches out on my living room floor. On the living room floor, and then laying everything down, basting it, and putting pins into it, I did stab my fingers a couple of times. I only bled once and then panicked, being like, I can't get blood on one of the quilts. Alright, so let me switch scenes for a second. We're gonna swap over to just chatting. I'm gonna be moving around, so I figured it was just, we'll tilt up. I've now made a mess of everything, so now I need to move it all again. All of my scraps can go off to the side, where I will make use of them later. But yeah, look at that, y'all. It took us a little longer, but to be fair, I started late, and then we chatted a bit, and then I got distracted talking more. So this is about actually par with what we would expect. Should not need any of those. Let's also move this off to the side. Okay. Gotta. Okay. I'm like trying to figure out how to move some of this out of the way. Actually, you know what? We're not gonna need you, so we're gonna set you on the floor. We're gonna swap back over to crafting, but what we are going to do is get rid of mouse. Come on, mouse. Haha. I'm gonna have to adjust everything, but there we go. Okay. Bring this over here, where it'll be a little better situated. And then I gotta fix this guy. Hopefully that looks kind of even. I have to make room for everything that I have to move around is part of the problem here. Is that a lot of, because of how, like, the stream deck will be in the way of the quilt, so I need to be able to move everything to set it off here to the side. So, before we're gonna do the binding, we are gonna figure out what the heck, so, this is the bottom of our quilt. I'm gonna actually be using, and that's why you all don't have that camera, because I just knocked it over. So this is where we're gonna have to get a little creative. Before I write a message on my quilt tag, I actually want to figure out where I'm going to place it. I tend to go to the bottom right. Now this is a leftover strip, which means it should be about 2.5 inches. If I do a 1/2 inch on each side, pick up the camera. This poor camera is gonna be so broken because it's on this stand that I keep moving and knocking over. So I think what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take our strip. If I fold it over about a 1/4 inch or so, I don't know. Let's mark it and see. Theoretically, I could stitch it where, emphasis on theoretically, because we're assuming that I stitched 2 inches apart. With my so for the other ones, context here, for some of the other streams with no entry sequence here, yeah. For the other ones, I usually had leftover triangles, so I would just put those here in the corner, line up the edges, and I could stitch down. It'd be no big deal. In this case, I don't. I just have the strips. So while I could cut a triangle, honestly, I don't want to, because I have so much fabric left over. It seems silly to just cut out a triangle just for this. So what I'm gonna do instead, actually, you know what? Forget clipping it. We're just gonna iron it. The iron should still be hot enough, I hope. Fingers crossed. Ooh, not like that though. I heard a sound. It's a raid. Welcome in, everyone. Hold on. I moved all of the cameras for me to be sitting at the sewing machine, and now I'm not at the sewing machine. One moment, I swear. Welcome in. How did the rest of Baldur's Gate 3 go? I hope it was good. You came in for... Alright, so welcome in. Leaf. Hey, Sahana. Also Leaf. Leaf, I love that you're always raiding and also here. Hi, Pirate. I promise, I'm not intentionally ignoring you all. I'm just ironing something, and... So I promise I will come back and read chat in just a second. Ow! Don't! Table. Hello. Let's see. Cascade of 4 decisions and consequences of my own actions. Fair. I feel like this is pretty standard for us. Yeah, exactly. It's normal. Hey, DC. Alright. You know what? I'm gonna allow it. I'm gonna do it. We're gonna do it this way. Except for I need to freaking iron more. Tavernal, chasms were involved. I mean, listen, things happen. Pyra and I both know, considering we play multiplayer games with Cypher of Tyr, where we do things like pick fights with Steve, the Oathbreaker Knight. Steve is a jerk. Which is not to declare that other, if you happen to be named Steve and you're in chat, this is not meant as an insult to you. It's just specifically the Oathbreaker Knight in Baldur's Gate 3, who hangs out in camp, who's a bit of a jerk. All right. Sometimes the chasm gets you to me, sometimes the chasm gets you. It is an unfortunate fact of life. All right. So for those of you, actually, here, let's, whoa! Table, you go over there. Move the camera so I can show you all. So, for those of you who haven't been here in a while, I should actually introduce myself, shouldn't I? Hi! Hi! Let's, we're gonna switch scenes real quick. I'm a mess, y'all. It's a Thursday. Hello, welcome in. If you don't know me, I'm Lady Luck34. My pronouns are she, her. Variety streamer who does gaming and crafty things. Right now, we're in a crafty groove because I am fundraising for Stack Up, which is a 501c3 charity that promotes positive mental health and suicide prevention in active and veteran service members. And we're about at the tail end of our fundraising. We're going to wrap it up next week. I'll let it run probably through at least the 10th, potentially all the way through Saturday for Veterans Day. But one of the things that the project I've been working on for my fundraising is a quilt. And it's nearly complete. It's looking so good. Dun dun da da. So we are now not quite 2 months into doing it, but we're at our second to last stage. So the last thing you do is you put the binding on the edges. It hides the raw sides of the material and helps finish the look. But before that, I typically will add a piece of fabric with a message or something written on it, or maybe the year and month, what have you. That will be the tag and the info. So right now I was just measuring and figuring out where I'm going to place it. I think I got it set, so now I got to figure out what I'm going to write on it. There's some fancy ways you can do this. There's people who stitch it with free motion quilting. I'm not that good yet. Emphasis on yet. So it's fine. So it's fine. So let me switch back over to the crafting cam. But yeah, if you're interested in learning more about Stack Up, you can type !charity. If you would like to donate, you can type !donate. If you want to get a link to the quilt pattern that I've been making, you can type !quilt. I'm sorry, !pattern, because I know what my commands are. And yeah, we're gonna wrap up soon. I was talking about the fact that only one person so far has donated for the raffle to have me clip a streamer VOD. So for anybody who's new here and doesn't know, I make clips. I'm okay at it. I do not, outside of special requests from friends, typically hire out my services to clip actual play one-shots or streams or what have you. Just DM me. Oh, I'll message you. I will message you after stream. But yeah, so you can learn more. It's funny, so all this said, I clip things, and only so far has one person donated. So if nobody else donates, it won't even be a raffle. They'll just win. And just so you know, the flat fee to get me to, so I have two redemptions. One is you can pay a flat fee, and I will, that books me, and that's $100, or you can donate $5, or any iterations of $5 that you want, multiples of it. Each $5 equals a entry, one entry, and if you win the raffle, I will also clip. So we have somebody who did, I think it was like a $10 donation, and was like, well, nobody else is entered, so you're probably gonna win at the rate we're going. All right, so let me. So the first thing I need to do is I just need to make sure here that I know what the total length is. The last thing I'll do before anything else is stitch, I will write the note first. So I just want to make sure I know how much space I have to do so. So this is the back of the quilt, and essentially what I'm doing is I'm taking a strip. This is the same white that's used on the front. Did it show up? Was there a notification and I missed it? Oh! Guess what? Didn't miss the notification. Well, I'm never sure. The notification takes a little bit. It's a little delayed. You're right. But don't worry, I didn't miss it apparently. On one side, I'm like, why did I do this to myself? I could have made the notification not that bad, but then like the whole point is I absolutely wanted to know when I got a donation. So it does do that. I say all of this. Hold on a second. But Pirate, thank you for your raid. And Prax, thank you for that donation to get yourself in for the clipping of VOD. It's now a 2-person game. That's the one I promote because I feel like that's the one that people are like most interested in. I know it's, and a raffle is like certainly so much more doable. All right. So essentially what it's going to do is I'll write whatever my message is on here, and then I'm going to, I'll trim everything, I'll clip it down, and I will stitch it. I'll do a stitch on the top and the bottom across to make sure it's firmly attached to the quilt, and then its edges will get bound with the rest of the quilt edge when I put the binding on, which will be the next step. But first, this poor quilt, like I ironed it and now I've done this to it. I'm sorry, quilt. It's just you're large and my table is small. All right, now I gotta figure out what I actually want to write here. Well, first off, I want to make sure I acknowledge that this quilt was for stack up. So I'm using, as context, this is I don't know what the brand is, Pilot friction pin. So these are actually meant to be like erasable pins, but their color disappears with heat. So they're really great for writing on from a sewing perspective, and then you can just run your iron over it and the color disappears. All right, so if this is the space I have to work with, this is I'm not the best at writing, which I think is part of the problem. It's a lot of like write, erase, because you're trying to be like, okay, how do I write large enough to make it fit in the space that I'm using? I am going to preemptively, I'm not going to cut everything, but I'm going to trim it just a little bit. There's a little less fabric in the way. All right. Well, now that I've done that, I want to make it a little bit. My iron's not hot, but it's just warm enough. Or do it with lemon juice, and when it's heated up, you can read the secret message. Well, I'm going to write over it with a black fabric marker, which is washable, so the message should not disappear just when it's washed. Actually, my iron is not quite warm enough. In my mind, I was like, it's definitely warm enough. I should probably swap to a different color that's a little easier to see. This green is not the most visible. Hey, welcome in. How are you this evening? But yeah, I hope everyone's doing well. We've made good progress. Disregard the mess that is the quilt over here right now. We've made good progress. Just doesn't look that right at this exact moment to you. Ah, there we go. That was the amount of heat we needed. All right. The other thing is I'm not very good at like keeping consistent size of my writing. All right. I think what I'm going to put on this one, it's definitely, I'm putting Stack Up Charity Quilt November 2023, which is when it will be complete. And I'm kind of on the fence of what I want the what I want the message to be. Indecisive. Yeah, small diorama, the Quilted Hills of Madness. That's basically what this past week has been, or the past 5 weeks, 6 weeks, 7, because next week we'll wrap everything up. It's just, listen. Oh, I moved this back, and I should move it back up a little bit. All right, I think I know what I want now. One of the biggest challenges with this is like writing on a. Actually, let's help ourselves before I do this. And if I ruin it, that's fine. I have more fabric, but hopefully I'm not gonna ruin it. So y'all get the very boring staring at me while I writing on fabric is hard, okay? Yeah, I started out, I'd say like, may this quilt your body and comfort your soul. Quilting to, I mean, honestly, if it wasn't a charity quilt, I would probably consider some other options. That might end up that might be a mistake, but that's fine. All right. Well, you got a little squished in, but it's fine. I think it'll be okay. And we'll just hope it doesn't get completely covered by the binding. I think I might actually end up okay though. Okay, hold on. We're gonna move it over here so I can better lay it down. Yeah, it's not my best, but I mean, like, part of it being handmade is that it's the whole point here is that it's not perfect. Because this is all handmade. Alright, I need my scissors, which are right here. Alright, and my clips. Okay, perfect. Perfect in that it's done, not that it's actually perfect. Okay. So what I've written on this one. Oh no, the question tonight is how many quilts are too many quilts? Well, we're out of October. So what's a good, like, would like vampires or werewolves or ghouls or zombies celebrate Thanksgiving? Like, would they still maintain, like, would the holidays that they had in their undead or they're not dead or they're alive or they're before times still apply? So I've pointing at the wrong camera. This is the camera I want to point at. So here we go. It's probably not going to be easy to read from where you're at, but what I've put is this is Handmade with Hope. And it's a Stack Up Charity Quilt, November 2023. In your life, the people come like a patchwork quilt. Some leave you with a piece that's bigger than you wanted, and others smaller than you thought you needed. Some are that annoying itchy square in the corner, and others that piece of worn flannel. God, I can read. You leave pieces with some, and they leave their pieces with you. All the while, each and every square makes up a part of what is you. Be okay with the squares people leave you. For life is too short to expect from people what they do not have to give, or were not called to give you. Ooh, that's good. Anna M. Aquino. Aquino? So what are we at? We've done 2 baby quilts. Quilt count. 2 baby quilts. We have this quilt. We have Pirate's quilt. I have the quilt for myself. I have the quilt for my parents. I have the quilt that a friend asked me to make. And then I have the quilt that I'm doing for charity. So yes, we're at 8 quilts. Additional separate quilt that we're doing for charity. So we're first, so the most topical question is how can Mariah Carey be top? Didn't she like post a funny meme of her like Halloween is past and now it's time for her song to come out? That question was asked and answered in the film How to Make An American Quilt. Most vampires are harmed to see how mortals portray vampires on Halloween. I guess that's true. I feel like Thanksgiving would be a time of peace between all the creatures in order to jump humans. Kind of like the Purge. But yeah, so we are actually sewing tonight. So I have written my note. Or my tag. Actually gonna add one more thing because since this is going to someone I personally know. One little thing. I didn't put my name on it. Okay, so these I'm just gonna stitch down. This is in a corner. It will not overlap with any of the heart squares. And it doesn't need to be perfect, it's just stitching it down so that it is relatively stable. And again, it will get, the edges will get caught up in the regular binding. Or in the binding, I don't know why I called it the regular binding, but in the binding. These again are also not going to be particularly straight lines. But they'll be good enough for our purposes. All right, so tag is on. Our tag is now attached. And we will now begin. After some of the other songs, this one feels oddly dreary. Alright. So. Let's pull out our binding fabric. So. The way we will do this is we will take our binding fabric and place right sides together, perpendicular to each other. Then that'd be quite perfect. I just usually clip together. Take my roller from one corner to the other corner, and we're gonna stitch, so they're perpendicular to each other, and then we are going to stitch a diagonal. Which you may or may not be able to see the diagonal on it, but perpendicular right sides together, and what that will do which I will show you in just a second. Is that when we unfold them, they become one continuous strip. And then we're just gonna, so our binding is actually going to be one ongoing continuous strip. Oh no! I'm sorry. Prax, what were you trying to post? Were you trying to post something, or was it just an accidental? I feel it. Here, I thought I was the only one that Nightbot's usually pretty. Pretzel was trying to make this a. Pretzel was gonna fight with Nightbot. Not how I thought it would go in my head. So typically I do this. I'm going to trim the threads just so they don't get in my way. annoying. We will trim the fabric itself so we don't have this giant and then I have a little seam presser. Oh, it's scientific. Yeah, unfortunately not an approved URL for Nightbot. But yeah, feel free to DM it if you haven't already. Alright, so a little bit of work. We end up with one continuous strip of fabric. And like if somebody is looking, they will notice the seams, but like, let's be real, who's actually going to be looking at the seams? So I usually, because I'm lazy, I will stitch a couple together so I can start and get going, but I won't actually stitch all of the seams or all of the strips of binding together. The other reason for it, besides laziness, is I found with this particular pattern, on the first quilt I completed, which was the baby quilt, it said I needed 5 strips of fabric and I only ended up needing 4. So it's more of a like, if I don't attach them all together, then I won't end up with too much at the end, where then I'm like, oh crap, I gotta seam rip something. Like I did with that one. Alright. So we'll definitely gonna need at least 4. But we'll stitch 3 together and then get started. Because you can add these as you go. It's not like it has to be all done in the upfront. I keep losing pieces of thread, but it's fine. But yeah. So obviously, if you all can't tell, we are definitely going to be working on the binding. Next week as well. Okay. So let me just, I don't need you. I need y'all. You related so many things. Go back into places that are not in my way. Okay. Whoops. Alright, so the recommendation I've seen is to start on one of like the bottom ends or what have you, which is what I'm going to do. So on the seam side. Oh no! So we are going to learn our lesson, everyone. We are going to learn our lesson. And that is that I'm going to move all of this stuff that's here out of the way so that hopefully the quilt is not going to knock stuff over while we're sewing. I have to hand it. Nope. The nice part with the way I saw this done is that somebody's basically like they want you to start, so I'm basically going to see if I remember to do this correctly. Like crap, how was I supposed to? I've now forgotten, as I was like, no, this is perfectly fine, let me explain it to you. I lied. I want you to know, Prax, that even the email notifications are behind because I just got the email notification for the donation. Where? Ma'am? Here we go. Get to you. Let me. this the one? This is not the correct video, but it is from the person I wanted to. She has a different one on binding. Well. And then we got to part of the reason is that I struggle with this is on the website you can search like on an individual page for video, but not on the YouTube app. So now I'm like, well, crap. Like it's just general search, not search on this very specific. So now I'm scrolling through. I can always find this video, and of course right now I can't find it. I just need to know how to fold it at the start. I think I'm supposed to fold it under. I promise that Susie will get all of the head pats. Here we go. Here we go. Show me the thing. Not the thing I'm looking for. Me. Not that one exactly. So, though that's also a good one. The specific thing, I don't remember if Rose City did it. This particular quilter folds at the start to give you like a way to, it's supposed to be, but I don't remember which angle I'm folding it at. I think it's... So I'm like, please show me the... Here we go. Alright. Now that I got confused. Okay. Aha! Okay. This is the part that... I know how to finish it, but I couldn't remember how to fold it to start. So essentially what you're doing is taking and folding... So we're folding down to the edge as a triangle, like so, which is very hard to see because the camera's far away. So you can kind of see right side, wrong side, and then we will actually fold this in half. Pull my clips so I can show you because I'm terrible at this. It's just the start that I'm failing at. And basically what this does is it creates a little pocket here as it goes along. And when we come back around to the end, we will cut the end also at the opposite diagonal to fit it in. And then stitch over it, and it basically makes a nice smooth end. So, I'm a beginner, y'all. Don't judge me for failing for a bit here. Just, I'm struggling. This is only my 4th quilt. Alright, so now that we've done all of that, I'm going to start basically in the middle here at the bottom. And so we are going to, so this starting, the finishing, and then things like the corners are stuff that I constantly forget and have to re-look up a video of like, how do I do this again? Honestly, the first time I had seen this type of binding, because I used a bias tape on the first quilt earlier this year. The first time I'd seen this binding is when you sent me that video, Prax, of Rose City quilting. And I was like, oh, that's wild. Like, that's interesting. Why didn't I do that before? I like this method easier. I think I didn't necessarily get the best width and what have you bias tape for when I did the quilt earlier this year. Because let's be honest, I did not do nearly as much research as I should have on quilting techniques before I sewed that quilt. Hey Tom, welcome in. I want you to know that I really enjoy your co-working streams. The only thing I wish, and this is not on you, the only thing I wish is that it wasn't during the day when I'm working, because I feel like that would be really soothing for me to try writing too. Or like a good like co-working for writing. I felt the same way. I find co-working streams for very specific things I do, or that I want to do, like super helpful, but it's always when I'm like legit working. But yeah, Prax, you send me such good stuff. If I haven't said it before, thank you for that. I do appreciate you always have something like. All right. Oh crap, I messed that up. All right, so if I remember and do this correctly, essentially I'm going to keep stitching until about 1/4 inch from the edge of at the corner, and then I will stop, take the stitching. I don't remember if I'm supposed to back tack there, but I will just in case. I think I am. Then we'll do some fancy folding, and then we will turn the corner. Been tough about doing them at different times to be available for me. No, I totally appreciate that, and like I get that. Just selfishly, I'm like, this would be so good. National Novel Writing Month has started. I think I've talked about it here on stream before, that I'm like not really trying to write a novel, but I like the idea of having that like accountability and reminders and things like that, and like trying to set something of a goal. So I typically do it. Depending on what's going on, it doesn't always go great, but I feel like this year I'm hopefully in a good spot to do it, in terms of just timing and things. All right, so we have clipped to the top, or to the edge of the quilt. This is the bottom edge, so it's one of the shorter sides. And essentially what we're going to do is I'm just going to stitch 1/4 inch from the edge ish. I'm gonna grab my ruler for a second. I'm gonna check something. Alright, measuring what 1/4 inch is. When I did the other ones, I didn't use a walking foot. I actually used the 1/4 inch, or the quilting foot with a 1/4 inch guide to help me. Transparently, I don't know. I might do a little more than a 1/4 inch. So here's where we're going to have that continued issue of the bulk of the weight of the quilt is over here. So I'm actually going to fold it up. So hopefully it's not pulling too much on the weight of the needle and everything up here. And we're just going to sew like you do. Just a little farther forward. There we go. But yeah, you can do technically like a 1/4 inch to 3/8 of an inch. Depends on how wide you cut your fabric. Corking streamers hauls up early. Yeah. I just find them super helpful. But yeah, it's so I posted it today, but for those of you who may or may not be taking part in the variety of things that are happening this week and this month, first, this weekend is game day for Extra Life. So if you have friends or family members or others who are taking part in Extra Life and fundraising for a local or any hospital as part of the Children's Miracle Network, please make sure to give them support. It's a lot. As somebody who has done that before, it's a lot. All right, this gets a little unwieldy, so I have to be careful. It doesn't have to be perfectly straight, but helps if I don't let it. So yeah, so Extra Life game day is this weekend, and I hope everybody who's taking part or who hangs out in other streams of people who are taking part, help them, you know, have fun and the best of luck in their fundraising. Of course, it's November, which means it's National Novel Writing Month. As I mentioned, for me, writing is just a bit like crafting. It's a creative output. I don't write to post, if that makes sense. Like, writing is more something I do for me, and I'm not sure that it's something I'd ever, outside of maybe like really short little things, would necessarily want to share. But I enjoy it. It's a creative output. I think that there's lots of ways that people can be involved with National Novel Writing Month, because it just doesn't have to just be, hey, I'm writing a novel and I want to get published. It could be like, hey, I'm working on, you know, my challenge is to write a fanfic or something of that nature. I use it just as like incentive to do writing. How much I write varies. And I'm usually not attempting to actually write 50,000 words in a month. But I respect the people who are. And so, I mean, it's a nice wind down activity for me as well. So like, especially for things like NaNoWriMo, like I write at the end of the day. I take my laptop, I lay in bed, and I say, hey, I'm gonna write. Ooh, crap, what is, oh, I know what that is. That's unfortunate. I don't know how those stitches, what the heck? It's fine, we'll clean it up later. But so it's kind of, I think I put it on both Twitter and Blue Sky, where I'm like, you know, for the Extra Lifers, good luck, have fun, you got this. You'll raise plenty for your local, or for whatever hospital you're fundraising for. To the NaNoWriMo writers, you know, I hope the best for your creativity and that it flows, and every word you write is progress. Like, I only wrote 1,000 words last night, but let me tell you, I was happy for the 1,000 that I wrote. All right. So we got to the 1/4 inch from the end. So we've now stitched this whole side. Ultimately what we're going to do is we're going to fold up and over. And it'll create this nice little colorful binding on the edge. But in this case, essentially, we have made our so the way this works is you essentially are going to do fold to make the corner, fold to bring it in line with the edge. I'm going to show it to you in just a second, I promise. I just have to actually get it situated. Cooperate with me. I can see why people love those tables where your sewing machine drops down, because it must be so much easier when you have like a complete flat space to sew and work with. I'm frustrated with some of the stitching here. Like, I can't tell if the machine's, if it's the way the bobbin is or what it's doing. Or, well, it is on the bobbin side. Just some loose stitches. All right. Press the people who created for the sake of being creative. It's always difficult publishing. I guess it's one of those where, like, one, I don't have. I think it's twofold. One, I think about this with like streaming and stuff, and being, for some people, my lady Confetti talks about this a lot when she's on panels, talking about being a streamer, about keeping something for you. And I think, in a way that for some reason, like a lot of other stuff isn't, for me, writing feels very personal, in like what you write, the types of stories you tell, what have you. And so it's something I hold close, but also something that I don't know I have the same confidence in, especially when it's creative writing, like storytelling and stuff. Like, I have an idea that spawned from a meme or something. I don't remember what it was. It wasn't a meme. What was it? It was something years ago. It was one of those, like, you know, based on the first letter of your first name and the month you were born or something, you know, you are these two things, or put these together into something. And the way that the answer I got netted out, I was like, that would be a really cool title for a book. And I was like, I could envision what type of story it would be too. But it's like, just because I have that creative thought and I mess with, you know, on and off writing something for it, doesn't necessarily mean that, like, I want to complete it or, like, write it to publish it, I guess. Like, it just became something fun for me. But yeah, so for me, in a way that I guess, like, a lot of other crafts or things of, like, which sounds really wild considering that I, like, craft on stream and I play games and talk about myself to you all a lot, writing is just something that it's for me. Maybe one day there's things I'll want to share, but at least so far I found it to just be like, it does its most for me. I get my most out of enjoyment when I'm writing it for myself. And so NaNoWriMo is more of a little bit of accountability. It's fun to track the words. If I give myself like different counts where it's like, oh, this year I want to work on world building for a story idea. I might never write the story, but I'll do some world building for it. Or this year I just want to write, like this year for me personally, I just want to write every day for a month. And NaNoWriMo is a good incentive to do that. Whether I write 5 words or 1,000 words. So I definitely hope the best for the people that are really using it to like write a novel or reach some milestone. But I don't think I've ever written a full 50,000 words during NaNoWriMo. I tend to be more in the like 10 to 20,000. And again, it's writing for me. There we go. We've prepped the next section. This song makes me think of the theme in Zora's Domain in the Zelda games. Alright, now that we've now clipped an entire side. So when you're stitching the corners, you don't actually stitch all the way to the corner because we want it to be able to fold over. So if I do it right, we'll get a nice crisp corner when I turn all around. Oh. We're gonna have the same challenge here with our dun, dun, dun. So I think probably I wonder. I wonder if the places where it's having trouble is where the walking foot gets, the feet get stuck, and that's what's causing the issue, because that would be really annoying. That'd be very unfortunate. A lot of little loose ends here. Just means I have to go slower and pay more attention. Ugh. It's not that I don't want to go slow and pay attention. This feels like a song that would be in a Tom and Jerry cartoon during like the chase scene. Very focused, y'all. We're at the last stages. I want this to go well. No, I think it's just dropping stitches. This is weird. I wonder if it's the bobbin I'm using. I'm less concerned about it right now because the bulk of the area where there's like the sticking out loops will be hidden when we fold over the fabric. My concern is when we're stitching on doing the next round of stitching, where all of that will be really visible on the back of the quilt. And I want it to do well. Why are you struggling? Do I need to swap out the... I wonder if I swap needles, if that'll do it. Ah, there's just so freaking many of them. It's like the thread isn't getting pulled through. Like it's not, it doesn't seem like it's actually dropping stitches or skipping them. It seems more like when it's pulling up, it's not pulling the bobbin thread all the way, and so they're... And so as a result, I'll show you all once I finish this side. We'll go to the corner, and when we cut the thread, I will show you all what I'm talking about, because this is, I guess the best I can do is swap out the needle and hope that that solves the issue. I want you all to know I did not have this problem with my thread when I was using the standard quilting foot with the 1/4 inch guide. Like I'm using the walking foot and suddenly I'm having difficulties. Also, Prax, if you're still here and I didn't say it before, thank you for your donation. I'm sorry, I was so distracted by being scared by the notification that everything else fell apart. Yeah, I think is it the needle? I'm not really sure. It's causing this struggle here. All right, we have not quite half of the binding on. Let me show you all. Here we go. So you can kind of see here, maybe. No, it's not zoomed. I'm like, can I get it close enough where y'all can see it? You can see this little bit of thread sticking up here. So for whatever reason, it's still the length of every other stitch, but there's a bunch of little spots where it's like the thread from the bobbin isn't getting pulled tight before moving on to the next stitch. Also, Prox, you're great. And again, not a problem right now because these stitches are going to get hidden. Potentially a problem when I do the next round of stitching because the bobbin side thread will not be hidden. Just for fun, I'm going to swap out my needle. I don't feel like it should be that dull. I haven't been using this needle for very long, but I'll try. There's always something, y'all. Right as I'm like, yeah, things are starting to come together. We're finishing the quilt. Quilt is like, but are we? You sure? You don't want to have one more new unexpected problem to deal with? Come on. Alright. I don't know why I'm having so much trouble threading my needle here. Anybody have any fun plans for the weekend? I do not. Well, that's not true. My plans are to hang out in various friends' streams while they're fundraising for Extra Life, and also just in general. Gonna work on free motion quilting for Pirates Quilt. I will be working on some of my side projects. Selfishly, I'm excited to wrap this one up. Just because then it'll be done and I can set it to the side and we can move on to the next one. Since I have 2 more quilts to work on. 3 more quilts to work on. One of the ones I can table for later. One is hopefully going to be a Christmas present for my parents, so I can't table that. Mini cooking competition for a quarterly cousins dinner. That's adorable. I love it. I love everything about this. You ever feel like, you know, baking or stuff that could... making things that could be... I don't want to say easily, but reasonably mailed. I would never say no to getting... Not that obviously you don't feed me when I visit, but... which I always appreciate. Where's my other... oh. Like, where's my other pen? Baking is the one thing I don't really do. Cooking is more my speed. I like the idea of I just throw a bunch of ingredients together and I taste test and throw more in until it tastes good. Baking is very precise, and therefore of less interest to me. So I do not bake very often. Outside of, I should rephrase this. No, actually, it's true. I do not bake very often outside of things that are kind of pre-made. So think of like you can buy the little pouch packets that you add water, mix, and they make muffins. I do stuff like that. Or I just buy baked goods at the grocery store. Actually, there's a really nice bakery. Down the street that I love going to. But in terms of like baking for myself, no. I don't find much enjoyment in it. I feel like that's worse, not better. My music stopped. And I'm not particularly good at it. So I do not say no if friends say I will bake something and throw it in a plastic bag into like a Ziploc and then a bin and mail it to you, because I'd be like, yes, please send me baked goods. Actually, French Chuck is amazing at cooking and baking, and I've had some of their baked goods, and it was worth it. So worth it. I forget what it was. I think I might have donated to something for charity fundraising and got baked goods as the result, and I regret nothing. So once you're getting towards the end of a bit of your fabric, you just add the next one on and you keep going. So as you can see, I'm typically trying to kind of do one edge at a time. Or one edge of the quilt at a time. Just kind of helps me with how I break up the clipping and the binding and all the other stuff work. Just super annoyed about why I'm having so much trouble with my thread. I might swap to one of my other bobbins once this one runs out. So the problem I have, or not the problem, one of the things is I have two machines. One uses a size 15 bobbin and one uses a 15J bobbin. And they are close enough that I cannot distinguish them. And unfortunately, the little plastic bobbins don't come marked. So once you take them out of their container or their, packaging, you have no freaking clue. They're usually like, well, this one's a little bit shorter. And I'm like, nah, they look exactly the same. I could not tell you the difference. So it's entirely possible that I am occasionally using the wrong bobbin on each of my machines because I cannot tell. The next time that I buy bobbins, I'm freaking taking a Sharpie to them when I take them out of the packaging just to avoid this exact problem. Okay. Dun, 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 dun. I heard a sound and I was like, what is that sound? So I'm trying, the notifications pop up on the other screen which is partially hidden by the screen that has chat. There we go. I have 2 left. We might end up needing both of them. But this might actually be perfectly sized, y'all. Alright. So we're going to try again, and we're going to see if the new needle will make this a little bit better. Fingers crossed, y'all. I don't think it's going to. Now we're back to Quilt is large and unwieldy struggles. Ugh. The worst. I had like a little bit of trouble like this, but not at this scale on the last one. It's less important right now because the stitching will be hidden when we fold everything over, but it will be important for the next stage because that will all be visible stitching. And while I'm using a gray thread, so it shouldn't like pop out excessively against this fabric, it's still going to be noticeable if there's like bunches of really loose loops and things. So what kind of baked goods are we getting? I don't know. Ask Prax, what kind of baked goods are there? I don't know what Prax's specialties are. I know I've seen some really good pies and various other things that have been like for birthdays and stuff. I'm trying to think, what are good... So a lot of our questions last time, or questions over the past weeks, have been paranormal themed because October and Halloween, but like, what would be a good November theme? I'm not even sure. Spoilers. Food, weather. Welcome. Yeah. Food is always a good. Ooh, I know. I actually don't love the. Is it cranberry sauce? That's a typical Thanksgiving-esque adornment. Also, if I had to choose between turkey and ham, I would absolutely choose ham. Though as I got older, it came more of a like, what do we want to treat ourselves to? And it doesn't even have to be like a holiday-esque thing. So I'd be like, can we just get really nice steaks instead of like a turkey? Or ham? Like, I'm happy to do mashed potatoes and gravy and a bunch of the other things that are like, I don't know, classically considered. But we've done Oh, I'm about to maybe make it worse. So my family on my father's side is Cuban, and the thing you do, or the thing that we always did, for like big get-togethers and holidays and things like that, was we would roast a pig. And so we would, it's like a 8-hour process. You have to be like replacing the coals and stuff throughout. And we would do, it was a very Cuban meal. You had, you know, rice and black beans, you had yuca, you had, one second, I'm blanking on the word right now because I'm failing miserably, but I know it involves a lot of garlic and like orange juices, like orange, hold on a second. I'm like, I can see all the ingredients. I can see, this is really funny. Yeah, I'm laughing because I was like, this is the word, and I searched it, and like none of the things that showed up first were it. So we would season our pork with mojo, which uses, hold on a second. So it's a lot of, it's a marinade that's very, I think, very Cuban. So yeah, you're using essentially sour orange juice and garlic. Some people mince onions and add other spices. The garlic and the sour orange juice is kind of like the foundation of it. And so we would like, it was a whole thing. Like you would make your own, like if you wanted to, at least in Florida, you could go, certain grocery stores do carry mojo as like a marinade. But we would make our own because, you know, my abuela had strong feelings about it. So get all the ingredients, and you would make like jugs of it, jugs of mojo. If you wanted to look it up, because this is Spanish, it's M-O-J-O. But so we'd make jugs of it, and so it was this whole thing. So like you would get the pig in advance, which, let me tell you, being traumatized as a child was absolutely the first time. So when the very first time that we did this, we actually went to like a farm, and they were like, pick out a pig, and I was like, okay, like being a small child, not knowing any better. And I picked one, and they're like, cool, we'll pick it up, you know, in a couple of days, not realizing that I was picking the pig that was going to be slaughtered for our meal. Similar story, because why not share all of these? I thought I needed you to time out the streamer for ham over turkey comments. I mean, I'll eat both, but if I could only choose one, it would be the ham. When I was 10, I believe, I was 10. We actually went, so a lot of my family, basically it was like my grandmother and aunts, so my abuela and my tia, at the time were the only ones really here, and then some like extended, you know, family members were the only ones here in the US. So when I was 10, we actually took a trip and went to Cuba, and I got to visit, I got to like visit like my bisabuelo, my bisabuela, you know, like the wider, a million cousins. So my great grandparents, essentially. We stayed at their house. It was wild. And like, so childhood trauma again was, they had a pig, because our family, the family in Cuba, owned a farm. They had a pig, and it was this whole thing where it's like, oh, one of your chores while you're here is feeding the pig. And it was like, okay, not knowing any better. to realize that this is the pig they had been like feeding and raising specifically once they learned we were going to come visit, because this is the first time, it was the first and actually I think the only time both of my great grandparents have passed now, that any of the great grandchildren that were born and grew up in the US got to visit. So it was a whole thing. Like they basically had a block party to celebrate. Brian Cortijo, he shows up, he knows exactly what I'm talking about. Caption had Mohawk instead of... I will say, Caption's not great with the English language to begin with, probably not great with other languages either. So anyways, yes, if you didn't figure out, that pig that I had the chore of feeding for the first like week that I was there was the one they ended up slaughtering to roast for as the big celebration for the block party, and I was aghast as a child. But so it was a whole thing where it's like you would, so we would make our own mojo. We would usually pick up the pig the day before, and then it was a whole thing to like, the way my grandmother would do it is she would have like the leftover garlic and other stuff, and she would actually like cut little like slots around, like on the, I hate to say the edges, but the edges of the pig, and we would like stuff garlic in there, and then you would basically be marinating it, like taking a basting brush, is that what they're called? And we would cover it so it was like on and off, you were doing that day, and then the next morning, usually it'd be like if we put the pig on at about like 9 a.m., it'd be about ready to eat by 5 to 6. It depends on how large of a pig you got. And so throughout the day, it was the same thing. It's like you would pull the pig temporarily off of the kind of homemade grill thing. All right, well, switching out the needle didn't solve for that, so I wonder if the problem now is the bobbin. It's kind of getting to the end of its, and I wonder if it's more unstable. But so, you would be replacing the coals to keep a certain level of heat. You would be going in and reapplying mojo to the pig throughout the day. Usually it was a party. It was like the day of the pig roast, family, if they weren't staying, would show up early to help with like prep and all of these other things and watching the kids, what have you. Then people would start showing up around lunchtime, so you'd have like sandwiches, something easy, as kind of like the lunch meal. It was having party, it was playing volleyball, it's getting in the pool, like basically hanging out and goofing off. And then you would have your rice, your black beans, your yuca, whatever else the various, tias and whoever else was there wanted to have. And then once the pig was done, that was a holiday meal for us. And then, this is one of the things I love. So we would do, like, I did not love the, like, steamed yuca. I don't even know if it was actually steamed, but, like, the soft version, which I guess is, like, the regular version of yuca. But, what we would do is the next day with the leftovers, the yuca would get fried, and it would basically be like fries. And then we would use the leftover pork to make sandwiches, and like you had a ready-made lunch the next day of what was left from. And it was like, that was a thing we did for like Thanksgiving and Christmas for years. You were like 4 or 5 when you went to Ghana for the first, and this was the thing where it was like there were so many things. I did a lot of wild stuff for the first time when I visited my family in Cuba. Um, I there's some really weird things. So there's these like really large, essentially land crabs that would like live in their yards, and they would dig these holes and things like that. I remember a cousin having the equivalent of, I guess, like a BB gun, like rifle-esque. It's just like teeny little, not like a traditional BB, like this is Cuba. So like little, basically like metal caps or pellets. And he was like, we're going to catch the one in the yard. And we climbed up on the roof and laid on the roof waiting for this land crab to crawl out of its hole so we could shoot it. And then it was funny because it's like, why are we both on the roof? If one of us is going to have to run down there and try and grab it, because if we don't hit it right, it's like, but then it was like, if you caught it, you know what they did? They would freaking cook the thing. And then usually it would become food for like the pigs and stuff. I rode my first horse while I was there. My bisabuelo, so context if you missed it before, bisabuela is like great grandparent, taught me how to cut mangoes, like chop them up with a machete. Now that I think about it, I learned some wild things while I was there. There was a house down the street in my grandparents' neighborhood that had this fruit tree, and I couldn't even tell you what kind of fruit it was. But you could show up, and for like 2 pesos, they would let you take as much of the fruit as you could carry. So me and one of my cousins. Oh, I also drank beer for the first time. So I showed up at this, the family getting together, the family block party, and one of my cousins runs up to me and hands me a mug. And because I didn't know any better, I was like, oh, something to drink. Cool, cool, cool. Took a sip. It was beer. And she had like run out of the house to give it to me. What the heck is going on? And of course I didn't know any better. And then she went back in because I was like, oh, where's yours? She goes to grab hers, and it's the beer bottle because she gave me half of it. And like, I respect that she wanted to share. Oh, it was wild. I get conned into doing work on the farm. The other thing is we were in, so my family lives in the, kind of on the opposite side of Cuba from like Havana. Like we flew in, getting through customs was the whole thing. And then we got in this junky old van or bus and drove like 3 hours. We weren't going very fast. And we had to go through mountains and stuff. And the area they're in, like relatively speaking, besides like the farms and stuff, was really poor. And so it's one of the things I don't know if I really have talked much about this, but like we took the max number of bags at the absolute max weight you could for everyone. And we filled it with things that were not easy for them to get there. So it was stuff, could be things like aspirin. It could be stuff like peanut butter. It was a bunch of clothes. And like shoes. I remember that me and my brother and a bunch of the cousins were like, oh, let's go down to the beach. Like there's a little corner store and we can buy like, a bottle of Coke. Bottles of Coke at this time. Now, granted, this was 1999, but bottles of Coke at this time, there were like the glass bottle ones. But the issue is, poor area, we don't have enough shoes for all of us. So we had like 3 pairs of flip-flops and like 8 of the cousins. And of course it's summer, it's burning hot, or obnoxiously hot, the roads and the concrete and stuff, even like the dirt is is warm. But like you were basically rotating the flip-flops. Like when somebody'd be like, "Oh, my feet are getting too hot," they'd get the flip-flops and you would just swap them around. Which sounds ridiculous, but like this was the thing. Oh, the other thing is a couple of our cousins took us to like the equivalent of a nightclub, I guess. It was like just a section of the beach where somebody would set up like a DJ station with music and play really loud, and people would show up and go dancing. And I'm like, I'm literally 10. What am I doing here? It was fun though. And like when we left, we basically came back with like the clothes on our backs and like our passports. Well, and obviously like wallets and things of that nature. But like we left the bags, we left the like everything. Like basically I came back with my passport and the clothes on my back. We left everything that I had, essentially almost everything that I had worn there, because they had so little and everything was so expensive. I remember we went into like a little store because it was so hot, and they were like, let's go see if we can get some fans. And like a standing fan, something you can probably buy for like $15, $20 at like a Walmart or something here, was like $75. Which was wild. But yeah, so I had a blast. My family decided, again, like you said, Leaf, they decided they were going to make me a badass. When I look back and think about it, I'm like, yeah, there's a lot of things I did for the first time. The first time I ever fired a gun was there. The first time I ever rode a horse was there. The first time I ever used a machete at all to chop a mango. We went and caught some fish that then we got conned into helping cook. Have a good night, Prax. Thanks for hanging out. Actually, I thought I was going to do a little bit more. I got distracted telling stories about visiting Cuba and my family. And not going to lie, now I'm like, I really wish my family would roast another pig and I would show up for that. I think we're going to call it here. I will figure out what the heck is wrong with my machine over the weekend. We will finish. We have like 1.5 sides left. So we're about 2/3 done. So y'all can see 2/3 done with this part of the stitching. So essentially what we are going to do on Monday is I'm going to finish stitching this. We'll get it all the way around, so you can see what an edge looks like right here. And then what we will do is we're going to fold everything over to the back half. It's not very clean looking. But we'll fold over to the back half, and then we will stitch again, and hopefully I will have solved the issues I'm having with my freaking bobbin by that point. And we won't have to worry about loose threads. But for now, we'll just leave it at this. So I'm going to swap us over to stream is ending. Quick list of reminders, back here as usual, Thursday, it is Thursday, back here as usual, Monday evening at 8 p.m. Eastern, we are going to finish this quilt on stream. I think we can do it. Hopefully I'm not sabotaging myself by saying that. Dun, dun, dun. But yes, so we are going to try and finish the binding. I'm going to get whatever's going on with my bobbin hopefully figured out. And if not, we still have Thursday. If we don't finish it, we'll finish it on Thursday. And if we do finish it, then Thursday will be maybe more Resident Evil. It's fine. I just knocked something over. Chad believes in me. I appreciate that. Thank you so much to Frax for the donation, to Pirate for the raid. Let's see if anybody's even still live right now of my normal crew. Well, I clicked raid channel. And Twitch is like, what do you want me to do? Setting stream for beginning. You mean the beginning where Susie was trying to knock over the camera? It won't bring up the raid. Alright, I'm gonna give it a second to see if it will pull up the raid somebody thing, but if it doesn't, we might have to end without a raid because it's Twitch is struggling right now. Like, I hate not to. There's actually somebody on I can raid to. I'm not up all night. And I only got an hour to go get my writing in for today. Apparently. Did my notifications not go out? I did screw up. I went live and then messed up and had to stop and re-go live. So in fairness, I did contribute to some technology nonsense on my own that might have confused Twitch. What is this music, pretzel? Alright, I'm trying to turn... There we go. I don't think it's gonna... Oh no! I got the little error that says the module is not loading. You still have time to procrastinate on writing today? Yeah, you've got, what, 4 hours to go? I only have 1. Alright, well, unfortunately, it looks like Twitch modules broke, so we're not gonna raid tonight. Thank you all so much for hanging out with me. I do appreciate it and keeping me company. I'll have to think up some good additional themes of things that we can talk about with weird questions during November. But all of that said, as usual, we'll be back here Monday evening, hopefully going to be finishing up the quilt for real. Not just a lie, but totally going to do it. I will get my sewing machine sorted out before then. Fingers crossed. So again, everyone, please, if you're taking part in Extra Life or otherwise supporting, know some people who are, please give them all the support, cheers, and what have you. Extra Life Game Day is always a blast, but also a lot of work and effort from streamers fundraising for Extra Life and Children's Miracle Network. Of course, to anybody who's taking part in NaNoWriMo, good luck with your writing. You've got this. And it's fine. The year's almost over. So be safe, be healthy, happy crafting, happy gaming, and I will see you all around.